Saturday, November 9th, 1974, 1:26 a.m. The gun came out slow. Not theatrical, not with a speech. Just a quiet, ugly certainty that turned the air in the Red Cactus Lounge into something you could taste. Waylon Jennings stared at it. Didn't reach for anything. Didn't step back. Didn't flinch. Behind him, the jukebox was changing songs. Someone dropped a glass. The bartender stopped wiping the counter mid-stroke. And across the booth, Dale "Dime" Rourke held the revolver like a question he was waiting for Waylon to answer. The neon beer signs painted everything red and blue. The smoke hung in the air like fog. And Waylon's eyes stayed steady, tired, razor alert, bored almost, like he'd seen this movie before and already knew how it ended. What happened in the next 8 seconds didn't just save Waylon's life. It revealed something most people never understood about him. The part that made him dangerous in rooms where music didn't matter and reputation was currency. Fort Worth in 1974 wasn't just honky-tonks and oil money. It was control. The Red Cactus Lounge didn't exist to serve drinks. It existed to create opportunities. The kind where deals got made in back booths, where handshakes meant more than contracts, and where saying no to the wrong person could get you hurt. The club sat off a service road near Jacksboro Highway. Gritty, truck stop adjacent. The kind of place where the floor stuck to your boots and the bartender knew when to look away. By November 1974, Waylon Jennings was one of the biggest names in country music. This time had hit number 1. Rainy Day Woman was climbing the charts. He was selling out shows, making real money, becoming the kind of star people wanted a piece of. And in Texas, when people wanted a piece of you, they didn't always ask politely. That's how they got you. Not with contracts, not with lawyers. With favors you didn't remember agreeing to. With understandings that turned into debts. With quiet threats delivered over drinks in rooms where nobody was supposed to ask questions. Ralph "Pudge" Givens had been Waylon's tour driver and gear man for 2 years. Ex-Marine. Quiet. The kind of guy who could load an entire truck by himself and never complain. Pudge didn't like the Red Cactus. He'd told Waylon that on the drive over. Said something felt off. Said they should skip it. Head back to the motel. Get some sleep before the next show. But Curtis C.J. Morrow had been insistent. C.J. was club connected, smooth talker, always helpful, always around when something needed fixing. Just swing by for one drink, he'd said on the phone. Dale wants to meet you. 5 minutes, easy. Waylon should have said no. But he was tired. And sometimes when you're tired, you make decisions you wouldn't make with a clear head. So at 1:15 a.m., Waylon and Pudge walked through the front door of the Red Cactus Lounge. The main floor was half full, smoke hanging thick, jukebox playing Merle Haggard, men drinking at the bar, women in booths, the usual late-night crowd. CJ met them near the door. Big smile, firm handshake. Waylon, man, thanks for coming. Dale's been waiting. Come on back. Pudge stayed close as CJ led them through the room, past the pool tables, past the bathrooms, to a back booth with a bad reputation. Sitting there, Dale "Dime" Rourke, mid-40s, oil field money, expensive boots, gold watch. The kind of man who'd made his fortune in dirt and invested it in things that didn't leave paper trails. Standing nearby, 2 men in work jackets, not bikers, not gangsters, just guys who knew how to handle problems quietly. CJ gestured to the booth. Dale, this is Waylon. Waylon, Dale Rourke. Dale's been looking forward to meeting you. Dale didn't stand, just nodded. Have a seat, he said. His voice was smooth, almost friendly. Waylon slid into the booth. Pudge stayed standing behind him. Dale pushed a glass across the table. Whiskey, he said. Good stuff, not the swill they serve up front. Waylon looked at the glass, didn't touch it. What can I do for you? He asked. Dale smiled, leaned back, relaxed. You know how this works, Dale said. You're famous, you're making money, you're rolling through Texas every few months. People want things from you. Waylon waited. CJ and I, Dale continued, we've been making sure things run smooth, making sure your shows don't get interrupted, making sure nobody causes problems at the venues, making sure local boys know to leave your crew alone. Waylon's jaw tightened. I didn't ask you to do that. No, Dale agreed. But we did it anyway. Call it a courtesy. He leaned forward slightly. Now here's where we are. You've got a good thing going. We've got a good thing going. And we'd like to keep it that way. What do you want? Waylon asked. Dale's smile widened. A partnership. You take a cash bundle tonight. $10,000. Easy money. In return, your next few runs through Texas, you help us move some merchandise. Nothing crazy. Just a bag or two in your equipment truck. Nobody checks your gear. Nobody asks questions. Waylon stared at him. And, Dale continued, you do a private birthday set for me and my people next month. One night. Private venue. VIP crowd. We pay you double your usual rate. CJ was nodding, like this was all perfectly reasonable. It's a good deal, Waylon, CJ said. Everybody wins. Waylon looked at Pudge. Pudge's face was stone. He looked back at Dale. What's in the bag? Waylon asked. Dale shrugged. Does it matter? Yeah, Waylon said. It does. Dale's smile faded slightly. Let's just say it's merchandise that moves easier when famous people help it move. Waylon understood now. This wasn't about protection. This was about control. About turning a famous man into a mule. About getting Waylon locked into a deal he couldn't walk away from. He shook his head. No. The word hung in the air. Dale's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. You sure about that? He asked quietly. I'm sure. You don't understand how this works, Dale said. You walk out of here without saying yes, and things get complicated. Shows get canceled. Venues suddenly have problems with permits. Equipment trucks get delayed at way stations. Your crew starts having trouble with local boys who don't know when to quit. CJ stepped closer, still helpful, still smiling. Waylon, man, Dale's just trying to help. This is how we keep things clean. Nobody wants drama. Just say yes. Take the money. Move on. Easy. Waylon looked at CJ for a long moment. You set this up, he said quietly. Didn't you? CJ's smile flickered. I'm just trying to help everybody get what they want. Waylon stood up. The two men in work jackets shifted. One of them moved toward the booth. And that's when Dale Rourke reached into his jacket and pulled out the revolver. Not fast, not dramatic, just slow and deliberate. Like he was showing Waylon something he needed to see. The room froze. The jukebox was still playing, but nobody heard it anymore. The bartender was staring. A booth full of bikers in the corner went silent. An off-duty cop at the bar turned slightly, hand near his belt, watching. Dale set the gun on the table. Didn't point it at Waylon. Didn't need to. Sit down, Dale said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Waylon didn't move. Pudge's hand shifted slightly. Not aggressive, just ready. Dale looked at Waylon with something like disappointment. I didn't want to do this, Dale said. I really didn't. But you're not listening. And when people don't listen, they need reminders. The barrel of the gun caught the neon light. Blue, red, blue again. Waylon looked at it, then at Dale, then at CJ. And he didn't flinch. The silence stretched. 1 second, 2, 3. The ice in someone's glass melted and clinked against the side. 4 seconds. The jukebox changed songs. Hank Williams. I'm so lonesome I could cry. 5 seconds. Someone at the bar laughed nervously and stopped. 6 seconds. Dale's hand was still near the gun, waiting. 7 seconds. Waylon's face didn't change. His breathing didn't change. He just stood there, looking at Dale like he was bored. 8 seconds, and then Waylon spoke. Put it away, he said quietly. You're not that kind of man. The words landed like a slap. Dale stared at him. What did you say? You heard me, Waylon replied. Put it away. You're not that kind of man. You're the kind who threatens, who postures, who wants people to think you're dangerous. But you're not going to pull that trigger. Not here. Not with this many witnesses. Not over $10,000 in a bag of whatever you're moving. Dale's jaw tightened. You don't know what I'm capable of. Maybe not, Waylon said. But I know you're sitting in a crowded bar with half a dozen people watching. I know there's an off-duty cop at the bar pretending he's not paying attention. And I know that if you shoot me, you're not walking out of here a legend. You're walking out in handcuffs. Or you're not walking out at all. He looked at CJ. You set this up, Waylon said again. You told Dale I'd say yes because famous people always say yes when you scare them enough. But you were wrong. CJ opened his mouth, closed it, said nothing. Waylon looked back at Dale. So here's what's going to happen, Waylon said calmly. I'm going to walk out of here. Pudge is going to walk out with me. And you're going to sit there and decide whether you want to be the man who pulled a gun on Waylon Jennings and got nothing, or the man who put it away and kept his reputation. Dale's hand hovered near the gun. The room held its breath. And then Dale leaned back, exhaled, picked up the gun and slid it back into his jacket. You're making a mistake, Dale said quietly. Maybe, Waylon replied, but it's my mistake to make. He turned toward the door. The two men in work jackets looked at Dale. Dale waved them off. Waylon walked past them. Pudge followed. Nobody stopped them. The main floor was still half full. Music still playing. Nobody seemed to notice them leave. Outside, the Texas night was cool. Street lights buzzing. Gravel crunching under their boots. Waylon stopped by the truck. Took a breath. Pudge was already scanning the parking lot, making sure nobody followed. You all right? Pudge asked. Yeah, Waylon said. I'm all right. They stood in silence for a moment. You know they're probably going to cause problems anyway, Pudge said. Probably. Shows might get canceled. Venues might have trouble. They might. Pudge looked at him. So why didn't you just say yes? Take the money? Move on? Waylon leaned against the truck, looked back toward the Red Cactus. Because the second you say yes, he said, they own you. They don't beat you with a gun. They beat you with a handshake. And I didn't come this far to let some oil field bookie own me because I walked into the wrong bar. He opened the truck door. They drove in silence for a while. Finally, Pudge spoke. What about that bartender? She looked pretty shaken. Waylon thought for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket, pulled out a roll of cash, handed it to Pudge. Tomorrow morning, Waylon said, you go back there. You find her. You tell her this is for the bar. Tell her everyone drinks. Nobody talks. And if anybody asks her what happened, she says nothing happened. Just another Saturday night. Pudge nodded slowly. You're paying the whole bar? Yeah. Why? Because she didn't ask to be in that room, Waylon said. And she'll lose her job if Dale thinks she talked. So we make sure she's taken care of. And we make sure nobody else in that bar has a reason to tell the story. Within 72 hours, word spread through Fort Worth. Not through newspapers, just whispers between people who knew people. Dale Rourke pulled a gun on Waylon Jennings at the Red Cactus, tried to shake him down. Waylon walked out, didn't sign, didn't pay, didn't flinch. Dale Rourke's name became a punchline in certain rooms. That's the guy who pulled on Waylon Jennings and got talked down like a child. Within 6 months, Dale's oil field connections started drying up. People didn't want to do business with a man who'd been embarrassed that publicly. By the end of 1975, he'd moved to Oklahoma. Smaller operations. Faded background. The Red Cactus stopped hosting C.J. Morrow's private meetings. Vic, the owner, made it clear that whatever C.J. had been running out of the back booth was done. The bartender kept her job. Never said a word about that night. Took Waylon's money and split it with the other staff who'd seen what happened. Nobody talked. Waylon Jennings kept playing Texas. Shows didn't get canceled. Venues didn't have problems. And the story of the night he stared down a gun became legend. But here's what most people missed about that night. Waylon didn't win because he was fearless. He won because he understood that real power isn't about what you can do to someone. It's about what you refuse to let them do to you. Dale Rourke thought the gun gave him power, thought fear would make Waylon fold. But Waylon had spent his whole life around men who use threats as shortcuts, and he'd learned early that the loudest threats are usually the emptiest ones. Years after that night, young artists coming up in Texas would ask the old heads about Waylon, about how he stayed free when everyone else got controlled, about how he built a career without compromising. The old heads would tell them the same thing Waylon told Pudge that night. They don't beat you with a gun. They beat you with a handshake. And if they asked for an example, November 9th, 1974. The Red Cactus. 1 gun, 8 seconds, 0 shots fired. That was all the explanation needed. Waylon Jennings walked into a room where a man pulled a gun on him, and he walked out with his name intact, his reputation stronger, and his freedom still his own. Dale Rourke wanted Waylon to be afraid, wanted him to fold, wanted to own a piece of him. Waylon gave him nothing, not fear, not anger, not violence, just 8 seconds of calm, and a sentence that ended the whole thing. You're not that kind of man. That's what made him dangerous and different